Since 2006, Lutheran Settlement House has hosted Men Can event, but I cannot be more honored to speak to you this year about this particular event. Not only will we be blessed by our Mayor Kinney, who's here, and other leaders, activists, and survivors, but this year we'll also honor one of Philadelphia's greats, Paul Bukovic. All right, Paul. Founder of Menergy. Paul has been an incredible partner to all domestic violence agencies in Philadelphia, and our city is safer and healthier because of his groundbreaking work. Thank you, Paul. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Mayor Kinney and all other city leaders and representatives here today to support our event. We also want to thank my fellow board members who are in attendance for your commitment to LSH, and the Lutheran Settlement House staff for truly wonderful work you do every day. It is so moving to stand here and see all of you together in support of this event to end domestic violence in our communities. We have a fantastic event schedule for you today, but I want to take this time to introduce our Executive Director, Christine Stutman, who will come and introduce Mayor Kinney. Christine?
Good morning. Thank you, Daryl. And thank you all for being here today to celebrate survivors, recognize Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and honor Paul Bukovic for his incredible service to our city. I'd like to extend a special thank you to Mayor Kinney. Thank you for your continued support of survivors and for your commitment to engaging men to end domestic violence. Thank you also to our board members and city leaders who are here, and to the LSH staff for your unyielding dedication and passion for this work. I'd also like to thank our sponsors for today, Frankfurt Hall, Johnny Brendas, and Aria Jefferson. 2018 is a meaningful year to participate in this Men Can rally. Given the powerful Me Too movement and the many ways sexual assault was brought to light in the recent Supreme Court hearings, and because the federal government has yet to reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act, it is now so important that we're all here to stand united in support of survivors, and united in the belief that we can help prevent and end this sort of violence from continuing. I know this belief is what drove Paul Bukovic in his work with Menergy, and it is what drives Mayor Kinney to continue to support agencies like Lutheran Settlement House. On January 4th, 2016, Jim Kenney was sworn in as the 99th mayor of Philadelphia. In his first budget, the mayor worked closely with the city council to fund bold anti-poverty initiatives. The initiatives included the expansion of quality pre-K, the creation of community schools, and investing in parks, rec centers, and libraries. Nearly 2 years later, he remains just as committed to supporting Philadelphia's most vulnerable. I am honored to introduce you to Mayor Jim Kenney.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be here for this year's Men Can rally, which is happening right in the middle of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I want to thank Christine Stutman and the Lutheran Settlement House for allowing me to join you all here today. Also like to congratulate Paul Bukovic, this year's honoree. Today's event reminds us that men have a critical role to play in ending domestic violence. Domestic violence tears away at our communities. Events like this are one important way to bring attention to this issue, which is far too prevalent in our city. In Philadelphia, police respond to over 100,000 domestic violence-related calls every year. Domestic violence is at the core of many of the health and social issues that our city struggles with, including homelessness, addiction, and educational barriers. Abusive relationships shatter lives, as we recently experienced with the tragic loss of our dear colleague in City Council, Linda Rios, who was killed by her husband. Linda's 4-year-old daughters will now grow up without their mom. This senseless violence must stop. It's on all of us to help ensure that Philadelphia's young people are given the opportunity to pursue healthy, respectful, and safe relationships. Every person deserves to be loved and respected, not controlled or manipulated. We're committed to doing better here in Philadelphia. We created a brand new office to coordinate our efforts to prevent domestic violence. Local government needs to have a role in addressing this issue, and Al Taubenberger and Bill Greenlee are two council members who have worked hard to do that. Our Director of Domestic Violence Strategies, Azucena Ugarte, has been hard at work improving the coordination and provision of domestic violence services with the ultimate goal of enhancing the safety of our residents. Since 2017, the Domestic Violence Prevention Team has expanded support for victims of domestic violence, developed a standard screening for domestic violence, and piloted homeless intake centers. If we keep working together and spreading awareness, we can make a real difference in reducing domestic violence and create safer communities as a result. These past few weeks have been difficult for women and for everyone in this country. Someone who has been credibly accused of sexual assault just received a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court, and that's disgraceful and it's unacceptable. Together we'll keep fighting back against the patriarchy and reminding everyone that sexual assault and domestic violence will not be tolerated in our society. Men should just be men, act like men, and not like bullies and worse. Just be a man, respect your wife, respect your significant other, and respect your children. That's all you need to do to be a man. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out to our Men Can Rally. We are so excited to see all of you standing in support and showing solidarity with survivors, with the current climate that's been happening with everything. It's just great to see you guys and great for survivors to see that they have your support. We're going to right now invite a young man up who showed up here by request from someone who wants to share a song with us. I don't know a lot about his history. Where are you? Yeah. But he promises that this has passion and meaning. And so we're going to allow him to share that with us.
What's up, Philadelphia? Amen. You know, I was invited out to sing this song. Right now, I'm currently homeless. I'm an R&B gospel songwriter, and God told me to use my gift, so I sing for donations. And while singing, I've sung to a gentleman, and he invited me out here to sing this song to y'all. But I thought it was just a regular Stop the Violence rally. I did not know it was a domestic one, and that's really special to me because my sister was murdered by domestic violence. So this is a special song. It's for you, Marcy. And here we go, Philly. Oh, I need y'all help too. Every time I say stop the violence, I'm a point and I want y'all to go stop the violence. You got me? We gonna practice. Stop the violence. Oh, that was good. One more time. Stop the violence. All right, here we go. Feeling, place it in your heart. Stop the violence. Feeling, place it in your heart to stop the violence. Feeling, we need to stop all this crime. We need to love one another, and we'll be just fine. Hey, hey, feeling, place it in your heart. Stop the violence. Oh, 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 feeling, place it in your heart to stop the violence. Feeling, we need to teach our youth the right way to live. And with the help from God, feeling, there'll be no stopping them. Hey, hey, feeling, place it in your heart to stop the violence. Oh, 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 feeling, place it in your heart to stop the violence. Oh, and stop this violence, Philadelphia. And put them guns down, Philadelphia. And educate our children, Philadelphia. Philly, place it in your heart to stop the violence. Oh, Philly, place it in your hearts to stop the violence. Stop the violence, Philly.
Thanks so much. That was beautiful. We appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker, Tony Lapp. Tony is the co-director of a program called Menergy, a program for people in Philadelphia who have hurt their partners or families. And he's a longtime Men Can supporter. So please join me in welcoming Tony to the stage.
All right. I'm going to get set up here. Give me a second. Good morning. Can you hear me back there? Yeah, we've had some issues with the speaker, so I want to make sure you can hear me. Can you hear me all right? Okay, good. All right. Here we go. Okay, good morning. Listen, before we get into this, I'm going to be introducing the Men Can Award recipient this year. Before we get into this, I wanted to show you something before saying some things to you. So this is the thing I'm going to show to you. I am not a confident public speaker with groups this big, right? 25 and under, I'm good. Gets this big, I get a little shaky. So I want you to know that, and now I want to show you something, because I think this is related to what we're going to be talking about today, a little bit about how men can be involved with this, but also some of the challenges that we as men have related to things that we get taught. So now what I do is I put on confident public speaker voice, right, and persona, and it's connected to body, and it's connected to posture and tone, and now we're going to talk. But I don't want you to forget that inside I'm anxious, right? Okay. So now I'd like to start by telling you a story. 20 years ago, almost to this actual very day, I met the person that it's my job to introduce to you today. At the advice of the woman that I'm now married to, I went to Lutheran Settlement House, which sponsors this event, to their basement, and I heard a man talk about his work, his counseling work with men who have hurt their partners and their family. I came away, part of why I want to talk about this is that I came away having heard something really different than what I expected. The work sounded much warmer and richer than I had thought it would. It sounded grounded, and it sounded thought through in ways that I hadn't anticipated, but also inventive and creative. It felt really unpretentious, but also really ambitious. And I remember walking away thinking, this felt like worthy work. If one was interested in women and men and children and adults, it was incredibly attractive to me. Fast forward 6 months, and I had a chance to sit and observe a group run by this man that I'm about to introduce to you. It was one of the truly significant moments of my life. I sat and I watched a group, a really motley collection of tradesmen and business professionals, men who'd been pampered and lived lives of privilege, and men who'd been very marginalized and traumatized. And I was deeply impressed by their willingness to disclose to each other their own failings and challenges. I saw them struggle and support and push each other. I saw them take responsibility and reach for change. I was also personally challenged and a little shaken because I heard them talk about things, some of which I knew I needed to work on in my own relationship. with my own partner and my own child. For the next 15 years, I had the privilege to work with Paul Bukovac, this year's Men Can Award recipient. Save that, because you're going to want to give it to him in a minute here. Among the many things I learned from him are a few I want to mention today. I learned from Paul not to run away from conflict and discomfort, but rather to see it as something that could be leaned into, an opportunity that sometimes could open things up to deeper levels of honesty and self-examination. I learned from Paul that the outsides of people can sometimes look big and scary and overwhelming, while on the inside, those same people can feel very small and bewildered and vulnerable. This picture of dominance that can be true for all human beings, but as often plays out as a result of what we men have learned is what's related to what it means to be manly, is a trap. It's a mask. We put it on, but it makes us, in those moments, very hard sometimes to relate to and to love. I learned from Paul the possibility of change, even when those first steps aren't pretty, when the person who most needs to change doesn't recognize it themselves and even may fight against it. But I also learned from Paul to better balance the belief in the possibility of change with some humility about how hard and rare change is, how not everyone who can change will, and about how tragic that can be, but also important to acknowledge if we care about safety and well-being for all of us, including people being hurt by someone. I learned from Paul to think about work to end hurt and violence of one partner to another as part of a much broader effort to address injustices in our community. Our gender-based prejudices are intertwined with our prejudices related to skin color and culture and sexual orientation and socioeconomic status and more. It's all intertwined. My liberation is wrapped up in yours. I learned from Paul a deep respect for a particular moment, that moment when all the ways I've distracted myself, deflected my thoughts, denied that unwanted inner voice that's telling me that I've been messing something up, fall apart. That precious, painful moment when I have the opportunity to step up and finally deal with something, even if it involves, distasteful as this may feel, acknowledging that I may need help. I used to describe the way that Paul ran a group as elegant and compare it to ballet. He could and that's one big person describing that about another big person. He could somehow hold each man individually in his mind, remembering details about history and character and personal style, while also holding a view of the whole group. He could be strong and he could be delicate. I saw many men grow and change and learn while working with him. We're honoring Paul today for 30 years in the trenches of working with men to make Philadelphia homes safer and healthier. That work continues. If you or someone you know is unhappy with how they handle themselves during hard moments in their relationships, Menergy, the place that Paul founded, is right up the road here off the Parkway. There's a table in the back with information. Please feel free to stop by. But please, now join me in giving a warm welcome to this year's Men Can Award recipient, Paul Bukovac.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you very much. I'm kind of humbled by this experience and feel kind of greedy in a way because I got my reward plenty doing the work. I was a social worker for 40 years, 3/4 of which I got to do what I thought was really meaningful, progressive work in the trenches, working on an issue that I became totally involved with. The battered women's people took me in, though they were a little leery of spending money on abusers way back 35 years ago. They invited me to each of their offices. They asked me to come once a month to get schooled. They had me to lunch, actually. I sort of remember it that they made me kneel at the table on pencils and told me a bunch of important things. They told me to listen to abused women, to stay small, to take some direction from them, to pay close attention to this very basic principle, which is always safety before healing. Don't rush to work on something unless you're sure that the situation is as safe as possible. So I learned a lot, and the work was very rewarding. Maybe I just like to argue with guys, but 30 years of that kind of wore me down a little bit. I had dark brown hair when I started, and now look at this. I have just a few things. I regret my 18-month-old granddaughter was supposed to be here, but I think she's a little behind, so I won't get a chance to greet her from the podium like I was expecting to. But I think of her a lot. I think that that's the age female that I would like to create, or like us to create, a safer, fairer, more dependable environment for. We worked hard. I'm not sure we made some progress. A couple of things I just want you to hear about that I believe, and then I'm going to read you some old piece of writing I rewrote. We are very fortunate to be in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is one of the most progressive places for working with domestic violence in the entire country. It's very rare that the Department of Human Services in a big city would find funding to help domestic violence both for victims and perpetrators. It created an opportunity for Menergy to grow, for the battered women's movement in this town to get really well established. People like Mayor Kenny, fantastic progressive politicians. We are very lucky. I was very lucky to walk into a job that would sort of engage me in a way that really grew my entire personality and I think my entire adult life. And I am grateful for that. I'm grateful for the great people I worked with over the years. There's Brother Rob in the back. So I think you should know that about this place. We're in a good place. Now, I was looking through my computer and I found something I wrote probably 20 years ago about the Men Can movement. It's called 10 Ways Men Can End Domestic Violence. I rewrote some of it because I thought it had, I guess I learned a few things since then. I'm going to read each one of them to you and then I'm going to let you go. 10 ways men can end violence against women and children. Number 1, men can behave with humility and respect at home and build healthy, non-violent, non-abusive relationships with the women in their lives. Men can mentor and become positive role models for young boys and girls. We can show them the way. Men can and should encourage our daughters to find their own strong voices. We should allow our girls, indeed teach our girls, to stand up to us. We should listen to their righteous anger. Let them know we can and should be held accountable as parents and husbands if we mess up. Men can stop hitting and belittling our children. It's the worst kind of lesson. It inculcates entitlement to violent retaliation and cruelty. It is wrong. Men can stop colluding by our silence when other guys make degrading comments and mean-spirited jokes about women. Men can man up and reject this nasty bullshit. Men can step up when we see abuse happening. Don't walk away. Intervene if we can. Call the police if we can't. Men can acknowledge the entitlement and privilege that come from just being male. We can acknowledge how much safer most of us men are than most of the women we know in almost every facet of life, like just walking down the street. Men can divest ourselves of the privilege of our muscle mass, socioeconomic power, macho cultural norms, and especially our right to retaliate when our fragile egos are wounded. We can reject both slut-shaming and idealization of women. We don't need whores. We don't need goddesses. We need friends. We need partners. We need safe others. And number 10 is new. We need to vote for progressive women. We need to vote for progressive men. We need to go out next month and turn this thing around. And I think we can have a safer world, especially if we have a balanced legislature. Thank you very much for this award. I am just thrilled and touched.
Can we give Paul another round of applause? Thank you for all you do, Paul. I have the honor today to introduce our MC for the rest of the program, Mike Jarek of Fox Philly, who will help us go through the rest of the program. Mike has been a vocal supporter of our domestic violence program and Men Can for many years. Mike is a member of our Men Can Steering Committee and was the recipient of our first ever Men Can Community Advocate Award. We're all thrilled that he decided to bring his energy, his passion to our everyday event. Please welcome Mike. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much. I tell you, Tony Lapp there just saved me about, 5-10 minutes, because he said everything I was going to say, and he's so right on. Why do I keep coming back? Because I have 2 daughters. I was raised by a very strong mother, and I was raised with 4 sisters. And every day I get up, and if we stuck to the police blotter plan every day on my show called Good Day Philadelphia, we would have a story about sexual assault or domestic violence every single morning. We can't do that every day, but it's got to stop. And so that's why I love coming out and talk about Men Can, because men are the perpetrators of most of this activity, and so we have to be the ones to stop it. Thank you all for coming out. There's one story that came to mind about 2 or 3 weeks ago. There's a woman by the name of Kathy Mancuso. She came on my show. She came on to talk about her particular issue with domestic violence. She was married, wasn't going well. He was beating her up. They split up. He still had visitation rights of their little, and I mean little girl. But some judge said it was okay, even though he was beating up the mom. And even though the little girl was afraid of her dad. Nah, you still have visitation rights. I don't want to go, Mom. Well, she dropped her off on a Friday night, and the guy, to get back at his ex-wife, strangled the girl to death, and then he killed himself just to get back at his ex-wife. It's got to stop. And I thought it was getting better over the last couple of years. And then I noticed President Trump, not supposed to get political, President Trump started mocking this woman that came forward with her experience of sexual assault. And so I don't know, we're not there yet. So we got to keep having these rallies and just creating awareness and continued to support people who come forth. By the way, let's have some fun before we get into our next thing here. Did you get raffles? Anybody? No? How do they win a raffle? Vashti, how do you win a raffle? Do you pay for the raffle ticket? Well, then we won't do anything yet until everybody gets their raffle tickets. Okay. I've done this for a few years. I usually have to use my glasses, but thank you, Toby, for blowing this script up. People out in NASA up at the space shuttle can see this thing. Branwen McNabb, are you here? Where is she? Oh, hi. I always hate when people do this. They have me come up and then they read my resume. So, and then people are staring at you. So just stay close because I'm going to do it to you now. Branwen McNabb. Any relation to Donovan?
I wish.
How did I know? Supervisor of the Family Violence and Sexual Assault Unit for the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. She has been an assistant district attorney since 2006. This goes on and on and on. Okay. Thank you for what you do for us every single day.
Thank you.
Talk to us.
Good afternoon. I have spent the majority of my time at the District Attorney's Office striving to help victims of abuse. When I am in court, I often reference Maya Angelou. I've always found her. There we go. I got help from the
Real
expert.
close.
I've always found Maya Angelou to be such a source of inspiration. Perhaps the most poignant statement she ever wrote is that there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. Tragically, survivors of abuse often feel that they must suffer alone and in silence. But what we know is that silence helps hurt, and silence aids the suffering. Not just for the victims themselves, but also for those who see it happening in their homes and in their communities. Breaking that silence is the first and sometimes hardest step in the path to healing. Healing bodies, healing minds, healing lives, and healing our community. Make no mistake, the District Attorney's Office is a vital part of the community of Philadelphia, and we exist to serve everyone who lives here. All genders have suffered the cycle of violence. All genders have witnessed their friends and family being abused. The DA's office is here to listen and to help. The DA's office wants to make sure that no one feels that they must suffer in silence, and that every survivor's voice is heard. We partner with many agencies such as Women Against Abuse, Philadelphia Legal Assistance, and Women Organized Against Rape to ensure that survivors are provided with all of the resources available to them, whether that be court accompaniment, assistance with seeking protection from abuse orders, and referrals to counseling and other social services. We also partner with Menergy to ensure that eligible offenders receive access to batterers intervention programs to provide treatment to offenders and effectively reduce domestic violence recidivism. Everyone here today plays a vital role in making sure that survivors of abuse know that they do not have to bear that untold story inside them any longer. We must work together to identify the abuse, reduce violence in our homes and our communities, and take meaningful steps together toward healing. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Say hello to Donovan.
Will do.
Okay, I think it's okay if we do that raffle now because enough people have run over there. Olivia, are you here? Where is Olivia? You'll be Olivia? What's your real name? Samantha? You look like an Olivia.
All right.
Let me put this down. Okay, come over here.
Okay.
What are they winning?
They have a choice between a t-shirt and a fanny pack.
Is a fanny pack okay to wear now?
Yes, absolutely.
It is. Fanny packs are back across the shoulder or across the front.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. not across the fanny anymore. It's
No,
been
you can wear 'em
misnamed.
down here.
Okay, that's not your fanny.
See, we got Robin.
Oh.
Robin rocking it.
Oh, Robin. Okay. Here we go.
Okay. Two 06751.
So close.
Anyone?
You look good with a fanny pack too, sir.
We got one over here. We got a winner.
Where is she?
Over at William Way.
Oh yeah, great. Are we giving another one away, or is that it? Just the one? Oh, one more? Oh, that's exciting.
All right.
Samantha.
Can we get that drum roll again? Okay. 206753.
You almost got it again.
Anyone? All right.
They're not here. You have to be here to win.
Yeah, they do. Sorry.
Speed it up, Samantha.
206729.
729.
Who got it? Yeah.
You have a big decision to make. T-shirt or fanny pack?
T-shirt or fanny pack.
She's taking the fanny pack, ladies and gentlemen. Just real quickly here before we move on. Thank you. Jennifer, could you come over here? I told you the story about Kathy and her little daughter being strangled, killed by her dad. This is Kathy's sister-in-law, friend of mine, Jen Sherlock. This wasn't planned, so I just wanted her to talk about the legislation that Kathy's trying to get through in Harrisburg. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Mike. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. I'm not sure if you know the story of Kaden, but she was killed in August by her biological dad. She was hit by a dumbbell multiple times, and then a bag placed over her head, and then a telephone. It's awful. I hate talking about it, but a telephone cord around her neck. And I can't believe I'm crying. I didn't expect this. I'm sorry. Anyway, but the governor's been awesome, and state reps, and the governor had us in his office like a month ago, and we've been working with the state reps, and they've been great, and we've been meeting with them mostly, my sister-in-law and my brother. But just to let you know about what we're working on is we're working on child advocacy. So we're hoping that there is a court-appointed lawyer or skilled rep advocating for the child in court. So many children don't have a say, including Kaden. And then we're also hoping for the Emergency Child Endangerment Act. And in Kaden's case, Kathy was trying to get immediate custody of Kaden when her father told her that he hated her and was threatening her. And Kathy was told by lawyers that she had to wait 6 weeks, and they didn't have 6 weeks. She was killed in maybe 3 weeks after this. It was about 20 days. So we're trying to seek some type of emergency child endangerment act, so that instead of waiting 6 weeks, just like you can get an emergency PFA, you can get emergency custody. We're also trying to remove the judge. If anyone's read the press, we're working on that. And the governor, he actually did put in a request for an investigation. So we're hoping something comes out of that, because at the end of the day, we want judges who have the right background to assist in protecting children. And then other than that, we're just looking for greater accountability of judges and more judicial reform. And that pretty much sums it up. But all of the updates will be on cadenscorner.com. We did start a website for her, and the community has been so awesome. So thank you so much. Kaden's birthday is on Monday, so she would love that everyone is out here supporting her.
How do you spell her name?
Kayden.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I love you.
I love you too.
Okay. Is everybody registered to vote? Just like what she's talking about, young people don't understand why it's so important to vote for the President of the United States, because the most important decision that person will make is a Supreme Court justice. You saw how that's been playing out, and other judges around the country. So please, I guess yesterday was the Pennsylvania had to register by midnight last night, but Delaware is Saturday and New Jersey is next Tuesday. Register to vote and then get out on November the 6th and vote. Okay, Eric Marsh. Is that you? Whoa! All right, come up here. I'm going to put you through this torture too, where everybody stares at you while I talk about you. And I'm going to put glasses on for this one. Love your shirt, by the way. All right, Eric is a husband and father of 5 children who has committed his life to engaging, educating, and empowering men to become better husbands, fathers, and brothers. His work for the Fathering Circle, which is great, has deepened the conversation around gender bias, respect for women and children. Now, as the outreach coordinator focused on fathers Eric and his team members reach over 250 men a year in their parent education classes. Please welcome Eric Marsh with a round of applause, or at least a smattering. Good to see you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. All right, all right. It's a pleasure to be here on this beautiful day. I can't believe, are we sure it's October? We have to thank global warming for this beautiful weather. But on a serious note, again, as Mike said, my name is Eric Marsh. I'm the outreach coordinator for Focus on Fathers. And through the work we do in the city with families and fathers, we reach over 500 families a year. Many of these families are caught up in the justice system and are often either victims or perpetrators of domestic violence, and sometimes they are both. As many of us understand, we must ask ourselves, why is this issue so widespread and pervasive, and what can we do about it? An average of 20 people every single minute of the day experience some form of intimate partner violence. That is 10 million people a year. This has got to stop. Oftentimes, we want to put people in boxes for our own convenience, labeling people as victim or offender, but we all know far too well that the old saying, hurt people, is true. Often, perpetrators of domestic violence and intimate partner violence have been victims in one way or another at some point in time in their lives. This is why the work of Men Can and the Men Can campaign is so vitally important. It recognizes that until men take an active and vocal position against intimate partner violence, our society is only addressing half of the problem. Men Can understands that we must address how society as a whole deals with conflict, anger, and strong emotions. It's the people closest to us who often trigger past hurts and deeply buried issues that start the cascade effect of violence. We must collectively work to help everyone, men and women, young and old, to do the hard work of self-healing and gain the tools and techniques that will help them resolve emotional conflicts without resorting to violence. For those already trapped in the cycle of violence in relationships, we must increase the visibility and access to services like Lutheran Settlement House, Minergy, the City of Philadelphia's Office of Domestic Violence Strategies, Women Against Abuse, and many others across the region. Agencies with a proven track record of effectively serving individuals and families caught on both sides of the domestic violence issue. Our work at Focus on Fathers targets and understands that not everyone wants to open up about their history or their experiences of violence. And so we do a screening with all of our classes where we pull the participants aside and ask them what their experience was, whether it's perpetrator or victim. And then we steer them in the direction of seeking services and resolving that issue. Because we can no longer allow this epidemic, this health crisis, to continue throughout our city and throughout our country. Agencies such as these need your support. We need stronger legislation, we need stronger funding, and we need you as men to reach out. The reason we're all here is because the violence must end, and we as men can end domestic violence. Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work, too. So many hours he puts in. Eric Marsh Sr., thank you very much. Okay, so we made a little bit of a ruckus over here, and they noticed us over at City Hall. I don't know if we're interrupting their meetings or something, but city council members have come over. Would you rather hear from Councilman Green Lee or Councilman Green? The longer name? Councilman Green Lee? Okay, okay. So every council person, please come up, and Commissioner Greenlee can do the talking.
Thank you, Mike.
Good to see you.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm proud to be here with Councilman Taubenberger, Councilman Green, and I first bring apologies and also greetings from Council President Clark, who isn't able to make it, but wanted to convey, as we all do, how important this event is every year, and I think we've been here numerous times to support it. And as the mayor stated earlier, this hit our city council family very, very seriously this year because we lost our Director of Human Resources, Linda Rios, who I think all three of us knew since she was a 17-year-old intern in city council. She worked her way up and unfortunately lost her life at the hands of her husband and left 2 4-year-old twins. So it really impacted us even more this year. But every year, and certainly the whole city council it cares about this issue, but I think it is significant that councilmen have stood up numerous times and are really trying to be leading voices in dealing with this issue and really what is the scourge of domestic violence. And I think we all know, as growing up, and we grow up a little while ago, we know that how important it is peer pressure. And really men growing up and even as we get older can have more influence on our friends, on our brothers, on our fathers, on our sons, to say, this isn't being a man. This isn't what this is all about. And oftentimes what we say to them might have more effect than, say, a rally will, because they know us, and hopefully there's some respect there. And what we also have to do is believe. We got to believe that this is an issue. We got to believe it's continuing. We got to believe when women say they are victims and they're credible, we believe them and we stand up for them. And we don't try to find reasons not to believe them. And because they know what they went through, and they're the ones that we have to believe and we have to support. So I'll just end it with this, and it's kind of what I end with on other times at this event, and that is certainly men can help to prevent domestic violence. Really, men should work to prevent domestic violence, and really, men have to. They must keep working to end domestic violence. Thank you all very much. Thank you for hearing us and keep inviting us. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike.
You want to?
No, I didn't say something real quick.
Okay.
My name is City Councilman Al Taubenberger, and there really wasn't a session going on. We were actually invited, and we came. I would have to say very, very clearly that Councilman Greenlee said it all very, very well. And there is something very positive about peer pressure. And that peer pressure must be put on. So as the mayor had said, for men to really act like men, and that is working with people and understanding their problems, yes, and listening to the victims and trying to improve your relationship. I will have to say the difference between this year and last year, my life was exceptionally touched by the loss of Linda Rios. You know what, you can speak about this until this is something that has happened to someone that you love. Now I am focused on this. Not to say I wasn't before. There's a certain part when your heart is ripped to shreds, and a woman that gave everything for her job and always had a wonderful smile is no longer there. It's like the sun has gone now. Well, to sum it up, men must be part of this, and certainly count on the three of us that are here and many, many others. We have to really spread this throughout. There is something about positive peer pressure, and we're willing to do our jobs.
Very briefly, Councilman Derek Green, I just want to reiterate the comments that my colleagues, Councilman Greenlee and Councilman Taubenberger, made. And when I reflect on Linda Rios Newby as someone that was very close to me, that this issue, this scourge of domestic violence, can happen to anyone at any time. And it's probably happening to numerous people throughout this country that many people are not aware of. Now, we've had a current conversation which has raised the attention on this issue, but it can happen to anyone at any time. That's why I so support in this Domestic Violence Awareness Month the work that Lutheran Settlement House is doing to really getting men engaged in this issue, because every man had a mother. So at least at that initial connection, they had a woman that cared for them, that brought them into this world. So we all have sisters, wives, relatives who are being impacted by this issue, and we as men need to step up. We need to step up and listen, provide support, and be active and using what my colleague said, using peer pressure to change this perspective and raise this conversation. We need to have this conversation on a regular basis, not just on a few times, not just in October, but 12 months throughout the year, because it's impacting many people every single day. So I'm glad to support this issue. I'm glad this particular event talks about what men should be doing and what we will do going forward to address domestic violence, not just in October, but throughout the entire year. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate the support every year. And no, we didn't interrupt. They were invited, and they always show. Maya, where's Maya? Maya. Da, 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 da. Okay, Maya, I talk for a living, not well, but they still pay me. So I'm going to attempt your last name. All right?
I believe in you.
Do you believe in me?
I believe in you.
Maya, no hate chewies. What I'm saying for you?
No hit showies.
No. Oh, my inflection was off there, right? Okay.
Pretty close.
All right, Maya, stand next to me. Legal case manager with the Domestic Violence Initiative. Maya assists immigrants who have been domestic violence victims and applying for humanitarian forms of relief, such as the VAWA. Is that right? That's what we call it. Self-petitions and visas, basically. She got her start in this field as a Philadelphia domestic violence hotline counselor. Wow. I bet you have stories, huh? Yeah. Maya has a BA in religion from Haverford College. Well, God bless you. You have some things to say? All right, your turn. There you go.
Thank you. I am going to read from a piece of paper because I am nervous.
Don't be nervous. How do you read that tiny print?
Young age. Okay, I'm so happy to be here with Lutheran Settlement House, where I got my start in the DV field. Thank you for inviting Highest to speak. As we all know, domestic violence affects people across gender, race, class, and culture, and this includes immigrants and non-English speakers. Those are the folks that Highest Pennsylvania serves. My team at Highest represents victims of domestic violence who, as victims, may be eligible for certain immigration benefits, such as VAWA self-petitions, U visas, or T visas. This is important to know. Any victim or survivor who is an immigrant, regardless of sex, gender, or immigration status, may have legal immigration benefits available to them. If you're working with someone or know someone who's an immigrant and a DV or sexual assault survivor, you can refer them to Highest Pennsylvania. It's especially important to support domestic violence victims and immigrants in our current political climate, as we all know. Now more than ever, it's important that we believe survivors and protect our immigrant siblings, two issues that intersect under this government. The federal government isn't doing it. They're chipping away at existing protections for immigrants with every strategy they can think of. That means that it's more important that we fight back, people on the local level. There are things that service providers are already doing, but there are things that men specifically, those that benefit from male privilege, and those in power can do to protect immigrants and survivors of domestic violence. At Highest, we've seen many of our clients mistreated when they attempt to seek protection from their abuser just because English is not their first language or because they're a person of color. We also hear again and again from our clients that they didn't seek help sooner because of their abuser's control, but also because they didn't know they had the right to call the police, or they have little trust in law enforcement because of mistreatment in their communities. This distrust prevents victims from getting the protection and support they need and can lead to issues later on when they're applying for immigration benefits. Men can step in here. You can talk to your friends, family, colleagues, co-workers who work in law enforcement or in hospitals or in courts. Talk to them about how important it is that we listen to, believe, and respect domestic violence victims at every step. That could be as simple as ensuring that someone gets access to an interpreter when they don't speak English. It could be as simple as ensuring that a victim is allowed to speak in confidentiality instead of in front of their abuser who may speak English when they don't. Men in these different industries can step in and step up for victims. Another thing we can do is to spread information. Like I said, many immigrants are not aware that they have legal protections available to them. Regardless of legal status, native language, regardless of gender or sex, immigrants have a right to contact the police, and they have a right to legal help. In a more just world, they should be believed every time they seek support.
We must believe and respect survivors, including those who might be additionally disenfranchised because of undocumented status or because of language. Highest Pennsylvania is here to support immigrant victims of domestic violence and sexual assault of all genders and sexual orientations. If you would like more information, you can go to the Highest PA website, and I'm also happy to talk to anyone who has questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maya. Nicely done. Didn't notice the nerves at all. Hey, we're going to do another raffle now, so get your little... where'd Samantha go? Samantha, yes. Toby wants to do it now. I do whatever Toby says. Anybody have the little plexiglass jar? Oh, Samantha, you're fired.
You're welcome, Sam.
Here we go. What's your name?
Robin.
Robin.
Yep.
You got your... Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready. We have 206-722.
206-722. Is this fanny pack and t-shirt again?
Yes. Okay. Going once, going twice. Next number.
3 times a lady. Here we go.
We have 206-783.
783. Come on. All right, one more, and then we got to go.
206-799.
If you're 798, I'll take it. 797. 96, 95, 94. Oh, come on up. Ah! You know what you get? A fanny pack and a t-shirt. You don't even have to make a decision. Coming up here is Robert Edwin Carter Jr. I think most of us know you as Brother Rob. Brother Rob, good to see you. Thank you. I've been good. I've been good. Let me get that out of your way.
Good. So I want to honor Paul. In 1979 at Temple University, I was in a class. I believe the title was Psychosocial Development of the Emotionally Disturbed Child. Heavy title, right? And Paul Bukovic was my teacher. He was jumping around, very, very animated, very, very passionate. And I believe I was a good student. A few years after that, Paul interviewed me to work with him at a place called Project Rap. Not rap music, but Reduce Abuse Program. And I remember one of his initial questions to me was, had I ever been abusive to a woman? And I thought to myself, I'm like, wow, I just want a job. I just want a job. I didn't really want to kind of have this focus on me, but that question was paramount. Because many people have come up here and talked about why this epidemic is so huge. It's in the air, it's in the water. It's the way we're raised. I was in group with Paul for years, and one day we was in group together and we were talking, and this guy was mentioning a situation. He felt real entitled because he was a cultural nationalist or something, and he felt like he needed to get rid of some stuff out of the house to make the family better and more unified for the race, for the group. And as he was talking, I thought about a time when I did a similar thing. I felt so righteous in helping my family move forward that I didn't think it was a bad idea to get rid of the TV. I didn't think it was a bad idea to just say, yo, you're gonna have to wear long dresses. I didn't think it was a bad idea because I thought the mission was bigger of just making black people stronger. But I was abusive. And I didn't get it until I was sitting in the room with Paul doing the work. So it's in the air. And if anybody's doing this work and not challenging how you live, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. It's about how we live. This man offers me a gentleness, a way of being. We party together. I love you, brother, and I wish you the very best. Thank you so much for bringing me to this work and being a part of my life. Peace.
Thank you, Brother Rob. Just real quickly, I want to say thank God for Lutheran Settlement House. I've known them now, I guess, probably 6, 7 years. Vashti, I love her. Toby over there, Toby Fraser. And on behalf of my sisters and my 2 daughters, thank God for the Me Too movement and for the Men Can movement. Speaking of Lutheran Settlement House, put your hands together for our last speaker, Richie Schultz. Richie, are you here? Oh, they like Richie. Trouble is, Richie didn't show up. Now here he comes. Hello, Richie. Keep it coming. You got to keep it going until he gets to the microphone. Ah! All right, don't milk it.
How y'all doing? My name's Richie Schultz. I'm the community educator here at Lutheran Settlement House. I wanted to begin with what I'm about to say with a quote from a Hungarian revolutionary named Antonio Gramsci. He says, "The old world is dying. A new world struggles to be born. Now is the time of monsters." We're living in really dark times right now. We have a known rapist as a president of the United States who just elected another rapist onto the Supreme Court. Things have been really hard, and everyone who is in any way in any relationship to the anti-violence movement is being psychologically abused and gaslighted on an everyday basis. It is hard. I want to invite y'all to take a big breath. I don't know where exactly it's set up, but every year we have a empty seat at the table. And the empty seat at the table is for survivors who have lost their lives to domestic violence. And so, in order to close this ceremony, I wanted to offer a moment of silence so that we can reflect and give space to those who have lost their lives to partner abuse, to those who have supported folks that have lost their lives to partner abuse, and to ground ourselves in that truth as we move forward to making violence unimaginable in our communities. So I invite y'all for a moment of silence. And as a ceremony to reclaim our rituals and acts from empire and the destruction that has come from that, we're going to release these balloons in the air as a symbol and significance of supporting survivors and those who have lost their lives to partner abuse. Thanks so much.
Nice job. 3, 2, well, you already done it. 3, 2, 1. There they go. That's nice. So again, thanks for coming out. And men can! Men can! And we will. And we must.